I was having casual relationships with one woman this week, one woman next week, just doing the stupid thing that we get caught up in the trap of because the whole world's showing us that lifestyle. And I was like, like your whole energy sucked out your body, like, because you just feel like you're being fucking brain drained and you're just around what I term as dumb energy, because it's the dumb leading with the dumb, and they're making me dumber and I'm making them dumber. And it's just like a dumb exchange because we're doing dumb shit. We're just wasting each other's time, basically, right? We're just walking around like lemons. Well, sometimes we should have just sat there and thought to ourselves, actually, why are we fucking each other? We're just wasting each other's time here. Do you know what I'm saying?
On this week's podcast episode, I talk with the podcast host, Frankie Lee, about women, letting go, being on purpose, his 100 days of celibacy, needing to be loved by everyone, and living a full fuck yes lifestyle. Enjoy the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Momentum Lifestyle Podcast by myself, Blake Worrell-Thompson.
And me, Genoa Van Keekum. Momentum is a men's wellbeing and performance community dedicated to helping men be better.
Each week, we deep dive with your favorite thought leaders and experts from around the world to get their insights to help you be better. Enjoy the episode. Now, guys, before we get started on this week's podcast, I want to talk to you about our Momentum Mastermind. The Mastermind is our 12-month program for men who want to surround themselves with other committed men, all with similar interests, values, and goals. Whether you're looking to build or grow a profitable lifestyle business, develop financial freedom, get in the best shape of your life, or create an intimate and epic relationship, the Mastermind is perfect for those who are looking to have it all. We know that to create these results and this kind of lifestyle on your own can be super challenging. So join now for your free 30-day trial. Simply visit our website, www.themomentumlifestyle.com.au. Up the top, you'll see a section for programs. Click on the programs, you'll see our mastermind, and you can sign up there now for your free 30-day trial valued at $1,000. We look forward to seeing you part of the mastermind. Frankie Lee, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, my man. Thank you for having me.
You're actually the second fellow podcaster that I've had on. So I'm looking forward to hearing your insights into the podcast game and everything that you've learned. I've loved watching you on socials and watching the development of your podcast. Before we get stuck into that, can you give the guys a 60 to 90 second spiel of who you are and what's got you to where you are today?
I'm Frankie. I've been podcasting now for like 3 years. Got to the top 1% in the world, which has been a hell of a graft to get there in the podcast game. I left the UK back in 2014 as a carpenter and joiner back in the day with a professional boxing license as a trainer after working in boxing for a lot of years. And then obviously went on to set a boxing gym up in Australia, all that razzmatazz. Obviously was really unhappy in my journey as a carpenter, because I knew that swapping time for money wasn't the ideal scenario for me, and I wanted to change my life. Hence why the tagline to my podcast is Break Patterns, Flip Perspectives. How did I do that? I started to educate myself. I started to get mentors around me in the space, serendipitously, that I met in my life in Australia. Australia expanded my mind, and I went into sales from carpentry and joinery. And once I learned how to sell, it gave me a job which had uncapped income potential. And from there, I set up a business called contentremoval.com, which basically removes all the content for images, videos, search results, everything like that for celebrities, brands, influencers, all that kind of stuff, protects their brand online. And then after 3 or 4 years of doing that and going through that journey, which I still do for a business, I came to kind of the end of my tether, so to speak, and realized that I'd spent my whole life with certain ladders lent against the wrong wall, and that I had to find my voice and then find what that was, and then start putting it out there to the world to kind of give what I should have been giving a long time before I started. And that's kind of the wrap up.
There's a bit actually in just what you said that I found super interesting. What, in hindsight, now that you've had 3 years in the podcasting game, what was it that prevented you from having a voice or finding your voice upon reflection now, do you think?
I chased money, solely money, because I came from lack. So it wasn't that my family had a lack of money. It's just that because I was born in middle class England and that's how I grew up. Middle class England is the worst place to grow up. because it's so comfortable and it's where most people live. Most people in Australia live middle class. Most people in England live middle class. Most people around the world live middle class. Middle class to me is this. It's the place where you aspire to have the mortgage, to have the 3, the 4, the 5-bed house, to have the BMW, to have the Mercedes, the C-Class on the driveway, to have the job that pays you anywhere. If you're in Australia, 150, 200K a year. If you're in England, 40 to 60K pounds per year. That is the lifestyle. You live that. You work 5 days a week. You do the thing. You have the weekend off. You go to the beach if you're in Australia. You go to the pub if you're in England. And that's kind of your life. That's your set, game, set, match, married, wife, maybe a daughter, maybe a son, rock and roll. That is the life you're rolling. That is not the life that I have envisioned for myself. It's not to say that I don't want elements of that life in my life. It's just that my aspiration for life and my zest for life is something way greater than that construct that we're brought into. And I've always known, ever since that narrative was taught to me through the school system and through my childhood, I've always known that that narrative never fitted my being. And once I realized that, I've always been uneasy with people guiding me with the best intent, family, friends, the people that were my mentors in the early days guided me, but I had the wrong mentorship because I had a bigger aspiration. So my first pearl of wisdom, so to speak, that I could give this audience that hopefully listen to this is make sure that the people that you're taking your wisdom from are living the life and loving the life that you want to lead.
One of the challenges for many in narrative, the main narrative really, I think, is that most people live it, and it can be quite challenging to, despite feeling like something within you is off, it can also create like this inner dialogue of like, maybe it's me. Maybe I shouldn't have these aspirations, or maybe I shouldn't like reach for the stars when everyone around you is like, oh, mate, you're doing well. You're living a good life. Did you find any dialogue or any challenge for yourself in terms of being good and living a good life, quote unquote, and wanting more? Was there any kind of internal conflict that you found?
There's been a lot of internal conflict throughout my younger life. I mean, I was looking back is so much easier looking back. You can connect the dots looking back, and many of us, when we're in it, we can't see what we're in. But what I've realized is there was a lot of toxic patterns throughout my past that are predicated on lack of self-worth, me feeling a lack of love, whether it be from family, from situations, which has then affected, these things are things that you pick up in your childhood. You might feel a lack or a disconnect, and then that might make you act a certain way in real life because you want attention and validation from the outside world. And then it also it did for me, it affected every relationship I had with women beyond that point. And what it all stemmed down to was the fact of like, I realized, it must have hit me at probably about 28, 29. I had these different relationships with women, and I was attracting the same type of woman. And when you attract the same type of woman into your life, or when you attract the same type of situation into your life, it's inherently your fault, because there's some pattern within your life that is projecting out into the outside world what you want, and you're getting the same repeated lesson over and over and over and over again. And the one thing that taught me was the women that I was attracting and the women I was dating at the time, and how I felt predicated on the fact of being around them. I'd solely attracted that into my life at the particular time because of this past relationship, this feeling of lack of love when I was a kid. And that feeling of lack of love had also led me into wanting to be around boxing to prove something, wanting to prove something in all areas of my life, always wanting to prove something, to prove something to who. So I was sat there at like 29 and 30 years old, and I was like, right, everything in my life is about proving something to someone else. And I don't even know why I want to prove it. Like, if I'm actually honest, I had to ask myself the question, like, why am I attracting this same type of person into my life that makes me feel the same type of way? So it really was about like unpackaging all of that and seeing the dots going backwards and kind of ascertaining where these incongruencies were in myself. It was just mad.
And I think a lot of people, consciously or unconsciously, will connect to that story, albeit it can show up for different people in different ways. Upon reflection, when it comes to looking for approval, validation, acceptance, acknowledgement, what was the work that has to be done so that the way that you lived your life was internally driven as opposed to externally driven and that seeking that validation? What work did you kind of step into so that it now is intrinsically driven and an intrinsic motivation as opposed to that kind of extrinsic motivation that you used previously?
I work on a couple of principles. One, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no to everything. You know, if someone asks you, your gut tells you the answer, so you know the answer. Every time that you don't take that true answer of yourself, you are literally not backing yourself in your reality. And when you don't back yourself in your reality, the universe won't back you either because you won't back yourself. That's the first thing I say. Second thing I say is I work on a term that I coined in my own mind for myself, which is called radical honesty. I work on it all the time. It's like, am I being radically honest and living intentionally in all areas of my life? It's like, even I've had to snap myself out of some darker spells when I've just changed my whole life again. You know, I realized I sat there on the beach 80, 90 days ago. I sat there on the beach in the Gold Coast, looking out at the ocean, beautiful day. I've lived the Australian life for 8.5 years, been to like number 3 in education, number 40 overall in Australian podcasts. Bearing in mind, this is self-funded, not funded by a big thing. I'm thinking it's great. But something in my gut said to me, Frankie boy, if you want to be one of the best at this game and really refine your craft, you've got to spread your wings. You've got to leave Australia. Everything about that internal conversation, that dialogue I'm having is like, no, I live by the beach. I'm surrounded by some of the most beautiful, elegant, potential wives that I could ever be surrounded by, you know, for my future here. I could have a dog and I can live this good life. Yes, but it's comfortable. This is the internal dialogue. So radical honesty at that moment is like, my gut is telling me that I have to leave to expand. How can I deny what my gut tells me to do? I can't, because it'll be incongruent, because I'd made the agreement with myself a long time ago that I would always do what lit me up, always do what would take me to the North Star goal. What is my North Star goal? To impact more people. Well, how am I going to do that? By getting more listenership in more countries. How am I going to do that? By podcasting all over the world. That's it. So it's like, once you know, you have to back yourself in every element. And it has to be across the board.
You said you've been back for about 90 days in the UK now. Has that piece landed for you as to why, like obviously the overarching goal and theme is to impact more people and potentially build your UK audience now that you're back there. Is there anything else that's landed for you now in the 90 days of like, oh, fuck, that's why I felt this kind of calling back here? Is anything else that's kind of landed for you?
I think what it was, if we look at my life going backwards, and maybe people will resonate, life is seasons, I believe now. I didn't realize this at the time. But if we just look at it going back, and I'll try and connect the dots to kind of see what stage I'm in right now. But before I came to Australia, there was like a little bit of a growth season, a realization season, so to speak, that realizing that the world's a bigger place. Then I go to Australia for like 8.5 years. And that whole 8.5 years in Australia was all about self-discovery. It was all about healing wounds of the past. Because at the end of the day, in essence, anybody that comes from the UK to Australia, unbeknownst to most of them they're not just coming for the hot weather. They're probably coming, English life, no offense to anyone listening in Australia, it's a lot harder than Australian life, a lot harder, right? And you're coming with the potential traumas that have to be healed. And Australia is a great energy, a great place, a great environment, great people. And it was a great place for me to be able to heal and find myself and really understand what I am. And now what I believe, I'm going into a transitional period where it's all about, you've created that foundation, and I will live in Australia again 100% because I love the country. It's my favorite country in the world. But I needed to be in a place that would allow me the opportunity to now spread the messages and go to the places. So by being the UK, Dubai, I could be in America in 6 hours. I think this going back to me is kind of a reset before the next chapter. And what came through to me on the beach that about 90 days ago, or however long it was, what came through to me on that beach was this: in order to get to everything that you want, in order to get to the level that you want, in order to see and achieve and be everything that you want to be, you have to let go of everything that you have known. And if you don't let go of everything you have known, you cannot get to that level. It's just, you have to strip back. So this whole last 90 days has been about losing parts of myself, losing old ideas, losing identities, losing the identity with the beach lifestyle, the blacked out Audi with the red leather interior, the gyms with the beautiful women. Lose all the identity with that. That's great, but that's not the ultimate, is it? There's more to you than that. There has to be more to you than that. You have to go out and you expect more from yourself. And in order to do that, you need to strip all that away, get all that away. And now we see what we've left with, and then we go again and we build again. And that's the kind of essence of the chapter that I'm in right now.
The way that you speak about it very casually and candidly, the identity piece, which for anyone who's been through like a dark night of the soul, he's speaking about it quite nicely, because it can be fucking frightening when there is a level.
Horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's fucked.
It's not what people want to hear. It's not what people want to hear. I'll tell you the truth. Like, I've been through absolute murder with myself with all of this. There's been so many rapid reinventions of myself over the last, let's just say 4 years, right? The constant evolvements, and I've evolved so rapidly, and we're talking month over month. I'm changing as a human, as in like massively changing, like changing circles, changing the way this and the other, changing the way I value myself, changing the way I value other people, changing the way I communicate, altering, learning, everything, assessing, reevaluating. It's critical. You can be too self-critical. All this evaluation happens. Like, it's been a minefield. And I tell you something, the process that I'm talking about, if you decide to go on this path, is the most painful process you'll ever go on in your life. However, on the other side of all that pain, the reward and the learnings for who you are and the good times that come on the back of knowing your true self rather than this false self that you build to the world. There'll be a lot of people that listen to this, male and female, that are going out living the lifestyle with their mates at the weekend, where they get on the beers, they get on the bags of cocaine, they do this, they go to the rave, this and the other. You know, they have this identity with this thing. And I'm telling you now, for half of you, that's not even actually who you want to be. You're just numbing yourself from doing the actual work that needs to be done. Well, I'm saying there's a lot of pain in numbing yourself, and there's also a lot of pain in doing the work. Pick your pain, pick your poison. Well, I'd rather sit through the pain of feeling alone, of feeling unloved, of feeling lack. I'd rather sit through that pain than sit through the pain of being surrounded by humans that aren't even on my vibration, whilst I'm out with them on narcotics that aren't even the good narcotics. The better narcotics are mushroom journeys with professional people, shamans taking you on them, where you can actually learn something about yourself. That is the stuff you should be doing, not the other stuff that numbs you, that lowers your vibration, that attracts you around characters that aren't going to influence your life or take you further forward. I'm just telling you the truth. It's painful both ways. Pick your pain.
So just speaking of the converted, I'm a big advocate of mushroom ceremonies and Aya and MDMA therapy. One of the things that you spoke of, and I think I'd be interested to know your experience, the more times you can shift your identity and let go of the ego and everything that's been built, the easier it can be to sit in that pain, because you kind of start to know what's going on in terms of that dark night of the soul and the destruction before the recreation. What for you has been the hardest, if you think about your evolution, maybe over the last 8 years, but from what I'm hearing, probably more so the last 4 years, what was the hardest bit for you to let go of, whether it's an identity or whether it's a ego piece? What was the hardest of all the recreations for you?
The needing to be loved by everybody. Yeah, always, like, because of that in my child. So to give people context to that, the lack of love that I felt as a child, which then led me to go on this thing of having what I call it's like I went through life having a dick swinging competition with everybody because I was trying to prove a point. Yeah. If it was like, if I walked into World Gym, I'd think to myself, I could knock that geezer out because I could box and he couldn't. Like, just dumb shit. My whole life was a competition. It was always about winning or losing. Do you know what I mean? Like trying to be a winner. It was just completely predicated on that. But to give you a bit of context into where that stemmed from, and this is what really fucked me, was I had always wondered why there was more of a disconnect with me and my mum rather than my sister and my mum. Why was that disconnect? I understand mother-daughter relationships are different, but I could just feel something was off. And when I was 14, I discovered that before I was born, my mum wasn't expecting to have me, for argument's sake, but before I was born, my mum had another child that had died shortly after being born. Now you imagine that now I'd gone through life. Every time I felt that kind of lack of love, I kind of resented my mum a bit more and resented her. And this started to build up. And it was only when I looked back at that situation, when I was 28, 29, I thought, wow, what must my mum have been feeling to go through that as a woman? Now I'm coming at it from a different perspective. I'm not resenting this woman anymore. I'm thinking, how is she feeling? What are the traumas she's going through? Why is she feeling that way? Seek to understand. Now I can heal. And now I can heal and I can talk about it. I can give wisdom on this because I've lived it, right? So I went through my whole life having this dick swinging competition, trying to prove this, trying to get validation, trying to get love from the world, trying to just feel whole, trying to feel something, right? And it was all because I'd never looked at it from the angle. And everything that happens in your life, whether you believe it's positive or negative in this moment, is a gift, because it gives you the gift, or it gives you a lesson that you can either choose to listen to and feel and sit with and learn from and evolve and go through, or something you can kick and scream against, but eventually the lesson's going to get repeated and you're going to have to learn it again anyway. The lesson in that was, now I have so much more understanding for what all women are going through in life, just all women, because I've had to understand it about my mum. And like, what must she be feeling? How traumatic for a woman to go through the loss of a child and then go through a whole pregnancy of a child she's not expecting to have, fearful at this point that child's going to do the same thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why there was the disconnect, because of that feeling. That feeling would have been transmuted to me in the womb even. So it's like, I've had to heal that in this lifetime, in this life. I've had to heal that. But that bit of work that I could look at as a negative thing allows me to come onto a podcast like this and speak about it. And hopefully there's people out there that are not living in their true authentic lights that might be able to take a little pearl or a little piece of what I'm saying, resonate with it, and actually question the narratives that they've told themselves about everything in their life. So what am I saying? I'm saying, look at everything that's happened to you and look at how it's happened for you. And when you do that, you can free yourself from all these unnecessary things that you're carrying. Start to unload that bag that you've been carrying on your back. Start to take those stones out. Start to free yourself from the traumas that you don't need to carry. And when you do that, the people you surround yourself will change. Your work environment will change. You'll walk differently. You'll train differently. You'll be differently. You'll vibrate at a higher frequency. You'll attract more into your life, and everything, the game, the set, the match changes.
When it comes to that wound, which obviously runs deep or ran deep, is it something that you still find yourself dealing with every now and then? Does it come up again, or is it you just feel no charge towards it? What's your relationship with that needing or wanting to be loved core wound now?
So my being able to talk about it at the level that I can talk about it now shows a lot of healing within it, for sure. Are there triggers in terms of like, do I constantly, things will happen, like I might be dating a woman and I'll be like, and she'll trigger me in some way. And I'll be like, There's some learning here. There's some learning to be done. What's the learning? What's the learning? Because this is an old pattern. This is an old program. We don't want to be going down this again. So that there's always things in my life, in the world, in the realm that we live. There's always things triggering me in all areas of my life. In all areas of my life, there's things that trigger me. The other day, I was looking at. I celebrate a lot of other people and a lot of other people's success. And then the other day, during a dark time, some of our podcasts are quite successful in the UK that was really smashing it. And for one moment of that time, I thought, fucking hell, like, why is this geezer getting all the run the cloth and I can't get a break? You know what I mean? And I started to go into this mindset. And there was learning in that. And again, this goes back to this radical honesty of like, okay, you feeling a bit of lack? Why? Okay, that's not the truth. Why again? Oh, that's bullshit. Why? Oh, now we're starting to get somewhere. Why again? Okay, why? I keep asking yourself why. And the first few answers are absolute shit that you give yourself. And then get to the real core reason. When you get to the real core reason, that's the point where you can go and meditate on it, sit on it, journal on it, throw the idea about. Accept that you feel that way and don't judge yourself for feeling that way. Because you are the 1%. Because what are you? You are the person that's willing to assess, be radically honest. You want to change, but you first have to seek to understand yourself. And when you become peaceful with that piece of yourself, you're like, oh, that's now a part that can just float away and go off on a different direction. That's what I've found. Maybe some people are different, but some people say, don't go and dig up the garden. I'm like, nah, fuck that. If you're going to live in the garden of life that is beautiful, I want to make sure that I'm pulling out as many weeds as possible to keep this thing running, right? Because you can't build a house on sand. So eventually, right, I'd love to be in a loving, fulfilling relationship with a beautiful woman, have a dog and potentially have children, right? Well, I want that woman that gets that version of Frankie to get the wholest version of me that I've ever been in my entire life. Right? So that I can be what I want to be to that woman, right? So I have to do the work then to get to the point where I can be that for that woman. But ultimately, I have to do the work for myself, not for others. Mm-hmm. And when I realized all of that as a package, that it has to be for you first and foremost, and then for the benefit of all beyond that, that's when the game changes again.
It's so valuable what you said there around the female piece in particular, and the amount of people that seek the quote unquote perfect partner but haven't done the work or aren't doing the work continues to blow my mind. And even to kind of speak to your point, like personally from a dating point of view, like so grateful for who I've dated in the past and like the work that I did over the last few years in particular to, energetically, vibrationally, however you kind of want to put it, call in the partner that I've got now. It speaks volumes to the work that you do and what shows up in your life. When you think about your relationship to women and how that's changed as you've done more and more work, what have you seen potentially in terms of maybe some of the patterns that, used to show up in relationships that now just aren't showing up in terms of the ones that you're attracting? Or what have you noticed in terms of the dating and how it's changed for you as you've done more work?
Well, the first thing is, if you want this beautiful, glowing, empathetic, energetic energy around you in the partner that you attract, male or female, you have to first become what you want to attract. This is the essence. And once I learned that you have to become what you wish to seek, that kind of took me, I was like, now that makes total sense then. So what I've learned through the whole thing and what's changed for me is the reason the women that I'm attracting as I went through my 20s compared to now I'm going early 30s, early to mid 30s, that the reason why they're changing is because of how I'm turning up different, constantly turning up different. It's just unparalleled. It's like, you potentially don't want to be around all the casual sex anymore. You don't want to be around all the transactional environments anymore because that's left you feeling empty in your soul. You know what I'm saying? So you've identified that now. So if you identify it, and that's how you, like, if you're a woman or a man listening to this and you're having loads and loads of casual sex and it's leaving you feeling like a part of you is being taken, but nothing's being brought back to fill you up, you don't want to keep repeating that pattern, because then that pattern, what that breeds is more resentment towards the other sex in a lot of ways, a bigger disparity, a bigger gulf, a bigger gap, which is defeating the object of actually what you want to achieve. So really, I've just been on this massive journey of, wow, I didn't know that about myself. That's an issue. I better fix that one, because I don't want to be going into a relationship with someone with that. And then, oh, fucking hell, I need to fix that too. Now I'm kind of at a point where I feel like, because of how comfortable I am to talk about all elements of my life, that I'm at a point where I could attract someone of the right vibrational match and work and still get better all the time. But I'm at the stage where I think I could attract that now. So I'm not pushing that. It comes in. But I really want to stress that if you're listening to this, male or female, and you're not happy with the people that you're currently attracting, or you seek to attract someone else, it all comes back to self. Spend the next 12 months not seeking anything externally, just looking within. Meditation, breath work. We've mentioned mushrooms earlier on. We haven't talked about it in depth, but mushrooms and stuff like that, things that open up the neuroplasticity in your mind to allow you more channels to open up so you can think differently, to break these patterns. Spend 12 months doing that. Go on a bit of a journey of self-discovery. Not many people have been on a 12-month discovery of self. The 12-month discovery of self will revolutionize your entire fucking life if you give it the fortitude to do it. You know, one of the things that taught me a lot about myself, it sounds so stupid, but was celibacy. I went celibate for 100 days, right? And there's a couple of reasons I went celibate, but one of the main reasons was I was 98 in podcasting at the time, and I was having casual relationships with one woman this week, one woman next week, just doing the stupid thing that we get caught up in the trap of, because the whole world's showing us that lifestyle. And I was like, you know, like your whole energy sucked out your body, like, because you just feel like you're being fucking brain drained, and you're just around what I term as dumb energy, because it's like, it's the dumb leading with the dumb, you know, and they're making me dumber and I'm making them dumber. And it's just like a dumb exchange, because we're doing dumb shit. We're just wasting each other's time, basically, right? We just walk around like lemons. Sometimes we should have just sat there and thought to ourselves, actually, why are we fucking each other? We're just wasting each other's time here. Do you know what I'm saying? But imagine living that, right? And then I went celibate for 100 days. And when you go celibate for 100 days, male or female, it'd be the same thing. I went from number 98 to like number 5, right? In that 100 days. Why? Because I put all the attention on becoming a better version of myself, raising my energy, keeping my energy within myself, putting the energy into my purpose, right? Put your energy into your purpose and the self-work, and the world around you comes to you. You don't have to go, I thought, fuck, I don't have to go seek it. Things start coming. The most beautiful, elegant women were coming up, and vibrationally matched women, not just for relationships, but in terms of like just to speak to, converse with, just to be around, were coming up to me because I was whole. They could see a man that was on his purpose. They could see a man that was passionate about life and doing the things he's doing. So we didn't have to be out there just being everywhere, you know, and trying to be the man, so to speak. It was just that's something that taught me so much about myself, so much, because it just allowed me that focus time. My challenge to all of you listeners is this, right? Take 100 days for yourself. Don't have to be celibate. Celibate's my extreme, because I'm an extreme guy, right? I like to do things in the extremities to see what can really be the effect. But take 100 days and just say, for the next 100 days, it's going to be about learning about myself, learning about who I am. I'm going to address every triggers. I'm not going to hide away from everything. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. I'm not just going to accept everything as it is. I'm going to write down a set of 5 goals that I'm going to attack. I'm going to try and figure out, I don't have to figure out my whole purpose in life, but I'm going to try and figure out something that feels most purposeful for me to pursue in the next 100 days. How about that? That'll change how you feel and how you turn up to the world in dramatic ways.
You're not going to believe this, but 15 minutes before you and I came on this podcast, I was in the shower and I was thinking about celibate as well. I don't know why it came to my mind, but I was thinking about it in the shower 15 minutes before this podcast. So there is beautiful alignment. Don't know why I was thinking about it in the shower. We probably don't need to go into it too much more than that. But what did you notice about that for you? I actually had a mate who did 100 days as well, and he was in the Gold Coast, a guy called Pete Tansley. And I interviewed actually a couple. They're worth getting on your podcast. They're brilliant. And he did it for 12 months within the relationship, which is really interesting. What did you notice about that for you? What was the good, the hard, the ugly of the 100 days?
So the truth is that the whole life force of the world for women, for men, is in the man's ball bag. Simple fact, right? Life force is in your ball bag, right? It's as crude as that sounds. Whether everyone says women control the world, pussy power, all that stuff, bullshit. Go and be a man that doesn't blow his seeds in the next 100 days and see how many more women are attracted to you because your testosterone's higher. See the things you achieve in life that beyond yourself that you could never imagine. Because women can feel a man that's on purpose. Women can also feel a man when he has his full energetic energy, and they want some of that. Simple as that. They feel it, and they don't feel it in terms of like they see it and they feel it. They feel it chemically. They can't help but feel that chemically. They will just be attracted to you that you couldn't even believe would be attracted to you at certain points in time. Things will happen because the biochemistry of you changes and everything just happens differently. But the key thing is, it's not even about any of that. It's about attracting things into your life that you actually truly want, i.e. the vision and the goal for the greater version of yourself. It's not about the women being attracted into your life and the more suitable women, right, being attracted into your life is a byproduct of the celibacy. But that's not why you should go celibate. You should go celibate for a period of your life to understand your life force energy and to understand how to channel that life force energy. Onto that, and I haven't been doing this, but I have learned extensively about it. On from a celibacy period, you can have a period where you see women and you obviously satisfy these women in the sexual manners that you should be as a man, because actually your duty as a man to do. But you don't have to. You don't have to blow. You should retain, not all the time. Now, so I've got friends that practice this, and he might have sex 7-8 times a week with his missus or whatever, and he might only blow once in the week, like because he understands his life force energy. There are ways. I mean, I'll let you Google them, lads, if you're listening, and girls, you'll be able to Google this for your partners. But there are ways that, as a man, you can satisfy yourself and your life force energy without the ejaculation as well, which is a great thing and a great thing to learn. Because that life force energy is what drives your whole day. It's going to drive that leg session. It's going to drive that sales call. It's going to drive that, going to book this guest, book that guest, book, boom, 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 boom. Everything's driven by that, right? And that is what you're giving away every time. And for the girls listening, the girls biochemically will want to take that from you. They want to take that from you, right? Even if within the goodwill of the world, they're like, we understand, we don't. They do. Biochemically, they're wired up. They want to take that from you. That's it, because that's how they get their life force energy from you. So that's in essence what you've got to know. Once you understand that as a man, you can move entirely differently. But it has to be a very conscious choice. Maybe with the celibacy thing, I did 100 days the first time, right? It actually first 2 or 3 weeks is difficult. Then when you get into like the 30-day period, between 30 and 60 days, you just smash life. It's just easy, like blah, 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 blah. It's so productive. You start to see all these different kind of benefits, attraction, everything starts aligning for you. But it's just, there's this little window of time between 85 and 100 days where sometimes you'll be like, fuck, Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, it's getting tested. But that's the fortitude of a man. I would start in windows. I'd start in windows of 30 to 60 days and just see how you feel and go from there. But I'd definitely give it a go and see, because I'm telling you now, like it changes the way you trajectory your life. And it's funny we're talking about it today too. I wasn't expected to talk about this on the podcast, but I'm thinking about doing it again, because I'm like, okay, the only thing I know, to the outside world, people go, oh, you're smashing life, Frankie. But to me, I'm like, oh, there's so much more. I know how much more there is. I've got so much more to do, right? And I'm jacked up on life. So for me, I was thinking on the way here, maybe I should go celibate again. We were probably both thinking about it at the same time. That's how energy works. But that might be the key to the next level for me even. So I think it's the key to everything. Just try it. But even women too, but even the girls that listen to this, celibacy is for you too. So if you're a woman and you listen to this, imagine how your life would be if for 90 days you didn't plug into anyone else's energy or didn't allow anyone else to plug into your energy. Just for 90 days. Remove it. Would that not change the way you feel? Because every time that we plug into each other, in the essence of the word, the energy and the cords are connected on a soul level. And when you leave each other, you'll find yourself, and I've found this before, where I've had sexual partners in the past, where I'm like, hang on a minute, why do I feel like it grey and overcast in my life right now when I felt zestful this morning? And it's because I've taken on someone else's traumas and energies and how they're feeling through this energetic connection that ended up as sex. It's very important that we all be mindful of who we're connected into, in what period of time, and what they're facing, and what work have they done. Because when you look at the most beautiful and happy, fulfilled couples, and they're both at the same energetic vibration, it's because they've both done the work separately, come together, and then they've worked together and they've flourished. A lot of us have missed the points. In a lot of relationships I see in the world today, sadly, there's always one doing 80% of the self-growth and one sat there just mulling along, being a negative Nancy, so to speak. So I'm just very mindful of it. As I remember when I was in Australia, there'd be a lot of these beautiful, elegant women with these deadbeat men, right? That would be low vibration. And then I'd go to a venue and I'd see loads of these great men that I know could do so much more in life with these low vibrational women. And it's very important that you know your own self-worth and what you can bring. And then when you know that, you can align yourself with so much more, because it's the truth. You lean into your truth. That's all I'm saying. I'm very passionate about it because how much I know it will change every one of your life if you implement some of the things that I'm trying to knock into your head right now. Sorry, I'm just very passionate about it.
Well, mate,
can't help it.
I can tell, and I fucking love it. And we did kind of preface the start of this podcast with me saying I had a few questions down, but there's a good chance we wouldn't get to them. And we absolutely nailed that. We didn't get to any of them, which is unreal.
If there's anything you want to ask, go for it.
I've absolutely loved where we've taken today, which has been unreal. The guys that want to tune into you, the work that you do, and probably just as importantly, your podcast, which is unreal, where's the best spot for them to track down all your information?
There's a few places. I mean, look, if you search the Frankie Lee Podcast on Frankie IE, LEE Podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, you'll find it there if you want to listen to the podcast. If you think you have half an interest in listening to the bald geezer have a little speak. But I speak to a lot of top people on there, entrepreneurs, celebrities, all these kind of people that are doing things that can give you this kind of wisdom. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram at Frankie Lee, that's probably my most active platform. That's Frankie IE LEE. Follow me in there. And if you get something out of this, the first thing I want you to do is implement it in your life for yourself first and foremost. But let me know how, drop me a DM if you listen to this and on Instagram and let me know what you've taken away and how you've implemented it. Because there's so many podcasts out there, right, that talk about the hero's journey and don't give actionable content that can give you something to take away. And I want to leave the audience with this. Listen to podcasts like this that can actually potentially move you forward because you're questioning your narratives. Don't listen to someone else's journey, but without the actionable insights is pointless. You're just listening to a hero's journey. I'd be really mindful of that when it comes to content.
Mate, I didn't know where it was going to go, and it went to some brilliant places. And just as importantly for me and for the listener as well, is just the passion that you bring to it, which is so good to see. And, kind of coming back, I guess, to loop in, what you've mentioned numerous times today is there's an energy when someone's aligned, and there's an energy when, someone's aligned and passionate, and you have, endless amounts of that, which I think in particular for blokes, when it comes to their mission and their purpose, that's the type of energy that they should be looking to find themselves, the energy that you bring. So just want to honor that as well.
Well, I think the thing is that the reason why it's so important that every man that listens to this, if he doesn't completely find his purpose, starts to align more and more as to going towards what that purpose may be. Because women want men with a purpose too. They want to see you're on your mission. I understand women have purpose and all that stuff, but like they want a man that's on them. They want to know the man's on a mission, right? And as being the true masculine energy that you all have to step into, you being all over the shop in a lot of areas of your life is not gonna give you that push through, that punch through. You need that concise laser light focus, and how you get it is exactly how it's talked about throughout this. And when you get that, everything else just really does start to align. And I kind of expect, hopefully for both me and you, and for every one of you that's listening to this, I'm expecting a big year, a big push from you, because now you've got no excuse to sit there, and let me tell you something as well. I just want to tell you this. If you are not comfortable talking about it, you are not healed from it, right? That's very important. If you are not comfortable talking about it, you are not healed from it, right? So this is why I'm so open to talking about all areas of my life, the lack of love, everything else like this that I felt, this, that, blah, blah, blah. The relationships, the breakdowns, the casual sex, all this stuff. I'm willing to talk about all of that, because the more I talk about it, the more I can give to you guys, and the more I heal. Like that's it. So anything that you're avoiding talking about or avoiding addressing in your life, that's where you start. That's where the work is. Lean into the work, right? Stop leaning away from the work. Lean into the work. The work is going to free you way before the night out at Burley Powerful.
It's a good note to finish on. Frankie, mate, it's been unreal to have you on the podcast.
Mate, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.